Samuel Smiles once said, and I quote, "Childhood is like a mirror which reflects in afterlife the images first presented to it. The first thing continues forever with the child. The first joy, the first sorrow, the first success, the first failure, the first achievement, the first misadventure, paint the foreground of future life." I unquote. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful, I am Dr. Hassan Iqbal, Resident Psychiatry from ENS Hospital, Karachi, and today I will be presenting two cases from two different parts of the world. Their stories went down in history as being horrifying like none before them. My first story starts in Lahore with Javed Iqbal, who was born with a silver spoon, eventually became owner of a steel casting business, enjoyed a lavish lifestyle due to his family's money, charmed others with his personality, and had multiple contacts with police officers and politicians. He often wrote heroic accounts of police officers in his magazine and experimented multiple business startups. This well-to-do person with a lavish lifestyle, lacking nothing, ends up here. Going into his past, as a child, Javed was known to be cruel to animals and his peers. He was manipulative and aggressive. He was favored the most by his parents because he was prophesied by a religious elder that he would do something great. He was famous in his neighborhood as being surrounded by people younger than him. As Javed's life progressed, he had multiple run-ins with law, which he evaded through bribery. His family turned a deaf ear to his antics. By his 20s, he was known as the evil genius and was feared by his neighborhood. He had two failed marriages, both of which lasted for 2 years. He often showered his potential victims with gifts and promises of visits to vacation spots. He spent all his inheritance in this way. A point of no return was when Javed was attacked by one of his workers and he sustained head injury that resulted in coma for 4 months. He woke up with all his money gone and only his ailing mother with his side. Subsequently, in a vengeful act of cruelty, he mercilessly killed 100 children in 120 days. He would target runaways, children on bus stands and shrines. He would persuade them with promises of a hot meal and a place to stay and would bring them home. These victims could never have imagined what awaited them. Javed would rape them, strangle them with a chain, dismember them, and then dissolve their bodies in acid. He sent a confession statement to a news reporter, admitting the killing of 100 children with evidence. Being proud of his act, he said that it would shock the whole world. A picture worth 1,000 words. Javed fulfilled his promise of making 100 mothers cry. My second story is about Milwaukee's cannibal killer, Jeffrey Dahmer. A young, white, handsome male in early 1980s came from a wealthy family, avid fan of nature. Described as loner, but surprisingly charming by his beliefs. Behind the mask, there was a human no less than a monster who was alcoholic, homosexual, and a cannibal killer, who killed 17 plus males, mostly black, to fulfill his dark desires. Jeffrey was the firstborn child of a couple with severe parental discord. His mother was suffering from drug dependence, who could not take care of him. His father was a distant figure who was preoccupied. These early life deprivations made a void in his life. In school, he was a loner who was bullied due to his unusual interests. Teachers pitied him as they considered him victim of the parental discord and described him as an intelligent individual with average grades. His father taught him how to dissect animals. That made him, indeed, he used to find out dead bodies of animals, dissect them, would feel their organs, and then dissolve their bodies in the acid. During his teenage, his parents divorced. He was left alone. This resulted in making him a monster. He called his first victim home and he just killed him. He himself stated that because from 15 years old up, a big part of my thoughts was basically unshareable. So I would just close myself off and put on a mask of normalcy. He dropped out of university due to his addiction, joined army where he killed 2 of his colleagues after drugging them. Later he was kicked out of army and went back to live with his grandmother that provided him with a perfect place to do his heinous activities. Jeffrey used to lure his victims from bar, invited them home, drug and raped them, after which he would strangle them to death. He used to dissolve their bodies after cutting them, but kept head and hands of his victims to keep them around. He once ate heart of his victim, which gave him a pleasure. He described that it can only be understood by a cannibal. He was almost caught twice. However, he manipulated the police using his influence as a right way. Finally, when he was caught by a stroke of luck, his flat revealed horror no one would ever have imagined. The stench inside the flat was unbearable. It was filled with acid bottles, tools to cut bodies, and pictures of his victims. His fridge was filled with human flesh, wrapped in plastic bags, and head and hands of his latest victims. He also kept skulls of his previous handsome victims to keep them close. He killed more than 20 victims, out of which 17 males could be identified. That resulted in an outcry of victims' families. He had no remorse on his actions, completely owned them, and described himself as sick and evil. The psychological autopsy of the case was done and he was found sane. The court gave him orders of lifetime imprisonment sentence for each murder. But Jeffrey wanted a death sentence because he described death as end to everything and an easy escape of punishment. He was killed in jail by his inmate. He said that his motive was never to kill, but to fill the void he had in his life. How an innocent child shapes up to become a dangerous individual that can potentially harm others.